Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello everybody. Today inshallah is another video for grade 3 students. Hope you are all safe and entertained. Today inshallah we are going to talk about the O-level story Black Beauty. First of all, let's remember what happened in the first term. We know all the ups and downs that Black Beauty faced in the first term, and at the end of the first term or the end of chapter 3, we know that Black Beauty was sold to a new owner after Squire Gordon and his wife left England. He and Ginger were sold to a new owner. The new owner's name was Earl Smythe. Earl Smythe, their new owner, had a helper who is their new helper after they had in the first term York as their helper. They had John Manley as their helper. Now they have York as their helper. So now let's start with chapter 4, New Owners. In the title we have reigns are the latest fashion, and the word reigns are meant, what are reigns? They are special kind of restraints or special kinds of robes that are worn by horses, which helps the rider to move the horses. Reins are the latest fashion. Earl Smythe's house at Earlshall Park was much bigger than Birtwick Park and more modern. The Earl's daughter, Lady Anne, liked to ride me around. Here, before I go on, we all remember that the narrator of the story, the one who is telling us the story, is Black Beauty, and he is talking now to us. He is telling us what is happening. The Earl's daughter, Lady Anne, liked to ride me around the park with her brother and cousins. I enjoyed these rides, which were sometimes with Ginger and sometimes with other young horse called Lizzie. I was a popular horse with Earl Smythe's wife, as well as his daughter, but the Lady Smythe always used me to pull carriages. She liked the latest fashions, and one of these was for horses to use special reins. These kept the horse's head high in the air all the time while we're pulling the carriages. They were pulling the carriages. She used to say, "How wonderful they look," the lady said when she saw Ginger and me with our heads held high because of the reins, of course. But the reins were very uncomfortable, and it was almost impossible to pull the carriage up a hill when you could not put your head down. If they do not tighten the reins, more, I will do what they ask me, said Ginger. So Ginger is not happy with the tight reins. She tells Black Beauty, if they do not tighten the reins more, I will do what they ask me, said Ginger. I can see that this is a good home and that they are good people, but if they tighten them anymore, there will be trouble. Okay, this was the first part, and from it we know that Lady Smythe, the wife of Earl Smythe, was fond of the latest fashion. She liked the latest fashions, and amongst these latest fashions was for the horses to use special reins, but this was uncomfortable for the horses because it kept their heads held high all the time. So what will happen next? Let's see. Part 2, Ginger began to kick so hard. I did not like these reins at all, but Ginger and I continued to work hard. So here, Black Beauty also didn't like the reins, but they had nothing to do but to continue to work hard. However, every day they tightened the reins a little more. One day we were both in a carriage together. The lady decided that she wanted the reins to hold our heads up even higher. I could see that Ginger was not happy. Before she could tighten the reins, Ginger began to kick so hard that she fell to the ground. While still attached to the carriage, she fell to the ground, and this is dangerous. I fell too, Black Beauty fell too, and we both had to be cut from the carriage as soon as possible. We were both hurt after the fall, and we were taken home. Earl Smith's helper, York, was angry about the special reins. He was not angry with the horses, he was angry about the special reins, but there was nothing he could do to stop Lady Smythe's love of fashion. He washed our wounds with hot water, and it took a long time before we recovered. Ginger and I were put in a field to recover, but my knees were badly damaged. We were not well enough to run as we used to do. So we spent a lot of time chatting. Then one day, the Earl came to see us with York. We know that the two horses were badly injured in this accident, and they didn't recover completely. I spent good money on these horses, the Earl said. He said, the Earl to his helper York said this, but if they cannot pull a carriage, we must sell them. I know a man in Bath. Bath is a town near them. I know a man in Bath who needs a good horse, said York. He looks after his horses well. He's a good man. You should write to him, York, said the Earl. We can still get good money for Black Beauty. I'm not so sure about Ginger. So this is the end of part 2 in this chapter, chapter 4. The part 3, we know at the end of that, the two horses are about to leave their new home because of the misfortunate accident that they had. From an owner to another. And this title bears a lot of meaning in it because we will, the two horses will be sold many times in this, in the next chapter, in this chapter and the next ones, and they will suffer a lot. Let's see this. From an owner to another one. A week later, I was taken away from the field and said a quick goodbye to Ginger. So they now split. They go two separate ways. I was taken in a train to the town of Bath. It was my first journey on a train. It was the first time for Black Beauty to be on a train, but the experience was not a bad one. My new owner lived in a small house in the town, and he had many horses. People could hire the horses for a day. So he hired horses for people. This meant that many of them were not good. If you are hired to different people every day, this means that you may face good riders and bad ones. This means that many of them were not good drivers. I was a gentle horse. So my new owner often let bad drivers take me because he knew I would behave well. Some of these riders pulled the reins so hard that it hurt my mouth. Some did not use the reins at all, so that I did not know what to do. Others did not understand that a horse cannot work when it has a stone in its foot. One driver complained that he had hired a bad horse because I couldn't walk very fast. The stone in my foot was very painful, and it was very difficult for me to get home again. So the inexperienced riders caused a lot of trouble to Black Beauty in his new residence. However, there were also good drivers in Bath. One of these liked me so much that he asked my owner if his friend could buy me. So there was a good rider who used Black Beauty once and then asked if he could buy or if a friend of his could buy the horse. And soon I had another new owner. His name was Mr. Barry. He was a businessman who had little exercise, and his doctor advised him to ride a horse to keep him healthy. He had a helper called Felcher to look after me and bought me the best food he could find. Felcher was good to me, and for a time, means at the beginning, I was happy. And I did not know then that my life was not going to be happy for long. So it seems that Felcher and Mr. Barry are good. What will happen? Let's see in the next part, part 4 in this chapter. Felcher is a food thief. We know that horses in this story can talk to each other, but they cannot talk to people. And we will see what this will lead to. Felcher began to give me less food each week, and I became hungry. I had less energy and started to feel exhausted all the time. When Mr. Barry visited a farmer friend in the country, the friend said, "Your horse does not look the same. Has it been ill?" No. But Felcher, the one who is talking here is Mr. Barry telling his farmer friend, "No, but Felcher told me that horses often have less energy in the autumn and that it's nothing to worry about." Mr. Barry replied. "That's not true," cried the farmer. The farmer knows best. So he told him, "This is not true. If you buy good food for this horse, then it isn't eating it, something else is. I suggest that you give this horse some good food for the next few weeks, and I advise you to watch your helper." To watch the helper. So this farmer suspected the helper, and he asked Mr. Barry to watch his helper. There are some men who will steal food even from an animal. Of course, I knew what happened to my food, but he couldn't tell. Black Beauty couldn't tell Mr. Barry because we know that he can't talk to him. Of course, I knew what happened to my food. Felcher put most of it into a basket and took it home. His family kept rabbits, which they sold at the market, and my food was given to the rabbits. Mr. Barry called the police after this, and they later arrested Felcher. This experience made Mr. Barry feel bad, and he decided to sell me. He didn't want to have horses anymore after this experience. But the good thing is that Felcher got what he deserved at the end and was arrested by the police. At the market, horse. So Black Beauty is about to be sold again. At the market of horses. I was taken to a market of horses. Yes, he will be on sale, so he will be bought on a market of horses for anyone to buy him. I was taken to a market of horses. There were horses there of all shapes and sizes. Some were tall and strong, others were old and sick. It worried me to see some of the horses who looked very thin. Would I be like that one day? Would I be thin and old like these horses? I stood there with three other strong-looking horses, and many people came to look at us. The men who thought about buying me opened my mouth, looked in my eyes, and felt my skin. This was the way to check a horse: to look in its mouth, to look in the eye, to feel the skin, and so on. Many of them saw that my knees were damaged and some were rough with me. rough in checking the horse. There was one man, however, who felt my legs gently and spoke softly. I liked him and hoped he would buy me. I think we'll be good for each other, he said. He said to the horse. He spoke softly to the horse and said, I think it'll be good for each other. He paid 25 pounds and I had another new owner. So Black Beauty was sold to a new owner for 4 pounds. And this was the end of this chapter. Black Beauty in this chapter faced many things, from being in a very big modern house of Earl Smythe to have an accident because of the latest fashion, the special reins. And then he was sold to a man who hired horses. Then he was sold to Mr. Barry, who was a good owner, but his helper was not as good. He was a thief. And then he was sold again. He was put in a market for horses, and a new owner, whom was thought by Black Beauty that he would be a good owner, paid 24 pounds for him. And this, my dear friends, at the end of our video about chapter 4, Black Beauty. I hope you are all safe, and I wish to see you again next time, inshallah. Goodbye, everybody.